All right, let's get it, man. The Texans are back, right? 5-5 out of nowhere after starting 0-3. These guys have won 3 of their last 4, 5 of their last 7. What is going on, folks? Neon Peacock in the house. We're rocking H-Town Candy Paint Red this Thursday night, tomorrow night, prime time versus the Buffalo Bills, bringing them into town. But before we get into all that, we'll recap some of the other stuff since the last time I saw y'all. Appreciate everybody for rocking with me tonight. Let's go ahead and hit the short intro, and then we'll get right into all of the fantasy goodness that is related to the Houston Texans and this upcoming schedule.
I'm Texas forever.
All these drugs just make me anxious. Look, I'm just tryna f you, not them hoes you came with. Pull up on 6, low, loud and banging. Yeah, Texas forever, still twisting my fingers. Texas forever, you speaking my language. Look, all in the day, but for Wednesday. Out in the field tryna score me a deal. Put my name by that X like I'm Kimbe. I do what call it. I stay with my friends, stay hands in, never hand out. Look, I had to go get it, my everybody say I'm the man now. Wrist moving in and out the kitchen, my might pull up on 6 in the whip, whipping it. I'm just a young getting it. All I had was the pot I was pissing in. Now everybody want pieces, percentages. I'm just trying to get my niggas over. I did the work that they won't. All this money, cash, cars, clothes, hoes, coming in fast, but I'm sipping slow. Since Texas forever, you already know. It's boy down there.
Texas forever.
Texas forever. Texas is where the game will be tomorrow night. Texas is where the Houston Texans surprised the Jacksonville Jaguars 2 weeks ago. And Texas is where they returned after defeating Tennessee this past weekend. So just to catch you guys up real quick style, I think the last time we spoke, the Texans were facing the San Francisco 49ers. They surprised me in that one, ended up pulling off a win there, convincingly, actually, kind of still, not all the way there, but that's when we saw CJ Stroud playing his best football and was actively healthy. And then the following week, didn't have a Houston huddle because I figured 2 big defensive teams, not a lot of fantasy questions there as far as who to start and say. It was pretty cut and dry. Plus, I've been really, really busy this past couple of weeks with work and just life. It's crazy. And then, the time change, it just seems like your days cut shorter. So you know how it goes. Everybody, but no excuses, no excuses. We are back. And just like the Houston Texans, the H-Town Huddle is back. So we're bobbing and weaving and kind of rolling with the punches just like this team is. But, we're back on the offensive. We're back on the offensive right now. So, right, leading into Denver, CJ Stroud gets concussed early in that game, and it's a stinker defensive battle. And the Fugazi Denver Broncos end up kicking a last-second field goal. Surprise, surprise. And the Houston Texans are on the wrong end of that, going 0-5 in one-possession football games up until that point or after that point. So 0-5 in one-possession football games. Feeling kind of bad. It was a chance for Texans to get to 500 for the first time all season. And this is a couple of weeks ago already, right? So following that game, we have the awesomeness that was the Jacksonville Jaguars debacle. And we see the Jacksonville Jaguars do this time and time again. We've mentioned it here on the GWN network. Guys are not familiar with the GWN or the General Wealth Network, Gen Wealth Net, as we all call it around here. That is the mothership flagship show. And then all of these other little channels like myself and Heart to Start Fantasy and Spencer the Guru and all of that. We're just one conglomerate underneath that corporate umbrella, as you'd like to call it, the General Wealth Network. But we all vibe together. And so make sure you guys are liking and subscribing. We're just 15 subscribers short of 250. So please spread the word, share the link, tell your homies about us. That we give great breakdown and insight and fantasy advice, and we answer all your questions. So we're just trying to get to the next level, trying to level up just like everybody else and keep on winning. So let's win together. And we do appreciate everybody who's tuning in. Might as well shout out the chat while I'm here. Appreciate my fellow Lee right there. Make sure to check him out 2 nights from now, I believe on Friday. He may bump it back later in the week because I think they play on a Monday. Oh, no, wait, that's a couple weeks from now. What am I talking about? His show's usually on Friday, so go check that out. It's the Chargers Power Hour. And salute to the future. There it is. Word of the day is legs. So let's spread the word, baby. Shout out to Marco with all the best jokes all the time. Ghost Monkey in the house. What is up, playa? Nice to see you here. Appreciate the support. King D, what is going on? Great to see everybody in here. Showing up and showing out for the H-Town Huddle. We'll shout out everybody else in the chat when we get a chance as more folks start dropping in. But yeah, where were we? We're talking about the debacle that was the Jacksonville Jaguars. And so there you see some of it. Let me get a good, where am I? No, that's way too small. No. I thought I had one for this. There we go. Cool. So there you have it. Davis Mills. Offense looks slow, sluggish for 3 quarters. I was tuning in that Sunday, also watching the Grit Don't Quit live while they were doing their stream. It's hard for me to do both as I'm an invested Houston Texans fan. You don't want to hear me tilting live on stream. So I just do that for the safety of myself and others, and my family as well. My daughter's already picking up like, you suck. And she's like, what? Dad says it. It's cool. And I was like, no, it's not cool. You're 7. Tone it down. So, but yeah, through 3 quarters, Texans are trailing 29-10. And then somewhere around the going into the end of that 3rd quarter, maybe about a minute and a half left or so in the 3rd quarter, the Texans offense starts to move, starting to pick up some first downs, finding Dalton Schultz, Nico Collins, an errant run here or there from Woody Marks. Okay, mixing it up. But yeah, all of a sudden, momentum, a couple of things happen. And then, of course, that final play that, eventually didn't need overtime as Trevor Lawrence tried to mount a last-second field goal. I believe the Jaguars had a total of 1 yard of offense in the 4th quarter. No first downs. It was all 3 and outs. It was just a monumental breakdown. And basically what I was expecting for that to happen at some point this season. I don't think this team is that good. I do believe that the Texans at some point pass these guys up if they can take care of business. And that's what it's all about. Every game is a playoff game. If you were listening or tuning in earlier today with the guys on OJ and a Blunt for breakfast, they were mentioning a lot of football talk, and they did say that a lot of teams are playing like every game from here on out is a playoff game. And so Texans certainly showed that, outscoring the Jacksonville Jaguars 26-0 in the 4th quarter. Like I mentioned, that defense, Texans defense, their strong suit. And Davis Mills just doing enough, man, throwing it, airing it out. He's a total football nerd. So Davis Mills, love the guy. Congratulations to him. Shout out to Davis Mills. Got to give this man his flowers, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. If you've been hit by the injury bug, the bye bug, and Superflex leagues, he was a viable start. And I believe that versus this kind of leaky Bills defense, and we'll get into it in a little while, he could still be a viable streamer for you in Superflex leagues. So, but yeah, the Texans, like I mentioned, back to 5-5. Look at them. Look at us. We are the John Daly in this photo. And the Chiefs are somehow 5-5, and somehow the Baltimore Ravens are 5-5, and they had a rough start. Texans already have the tiebreaker on them. So Texans do face Kansas City after the following week. Right now they have the Bills, then they face the Colts, followed by the Chiefs. So murderer's row as far as talent that they will be facing. Caliber teams, good, worthy playoff teams. So it's going to be some interesting football. But talking about, interesting football that's happening right now. Texans defense, still the fewest points allowed entering week 12. Look at that, folks, doing the thing. Oh, make sure that you're heading on over to neonpeacockmerch.com. You see it scrolling down at the bottom of your screen. neonpeacockmerch.com. $15 tees plus everything else on sale. I think the last day is tomorrow, so that is expiring soon. So make sure you guys go on over there, check that out. And while we're at it, might as well just, we're 10 minutes into the show, but might as well give props to the sponsor from day one, Gen Wealth Network, H-Town Huddle, and most of the other shows out on here. NeonPeacockMerch.com. Check it out. And there you have it, folks. NeonPeacockMerch.com. Shout out to the sponsor right there, scrolling at the bottom of the screen for you. Check it out, NeonPeacockMerch.com. If it's your first time visiting the website, you can type in your mailing address and you will be notified every single time we're having a crazy cool sale going on for you. But yeah, so I guess we can start kicking off the matchup. Enough of that. I don't know if I want to go back and still poop on the Jaguars, but it is what it is. Oh, I didn't even talk about the Titans this last week, but I guess we'll get into that with this game preview. We're gonna reference a lot of things that happened for both the Bills last week and over the course of the season, and the Texans last week. And so try to get through all this in the next 45 minutes or so. See what's happening. You're debating on going to the game. Go to the game, bro. This is gonna be a good one. I feel like I know it's Mills, and maybe we'll be let down and they don't cover the 6-point spread, or whatever it is. But if you have a chance to be there in person, supporting and giving it your all out there, I think it's a cool experience. I have friends of mine that have season tickets on behind, I forget which end zone it is, but kind of middle way up behind the goalposts. And they were in Tennessee this last week for his wife's birthday, and I guess obviously they're still trekking back, and they're going to make this game as well because the wife is my daughter's speech therapist. Anyways, they weren't. She wasn't at work this week, so I'm thinking they've taken the whole week to kind of do a tour to South. And anyway, whatever. That's besides the point. You should definitely go check it out. I'll be out there with my Fire Nick Haley sign. Hey, I have that pinned on my X account. So that is my pinned tweet, Fire Nick Haley, with some sort of graphic supporting a bunch of stats that he sucks. But it's for another time. But I'll look for it if you're out there. I'll look for it in the crowd. We all will on Thursday night. We'll do the all 22. Maybe we can catch some extra stuff happening out there. But appreciate you, Brandon. He's on fire. I got that one somewhere, but it's going to take me a little while to scroll and check it out. But it's somewhere. Actually, I need to update all of the stuff on this back end. It's a little messy compared to the way that I have the GWN real nice. And, I can find everything alphabetically and whatnot. But, at least I still have this one. Yeah. He doesn't use his playbook till we start chanting it. Yeah, I know, it's weird, and it's almost like he can hear us. It's well, let's recap anyway. I was talking about the defense here. We can try to push through this, and we'll end up talking about how some things really don't make sense with Nick Haley a lot. But there are still obviously some bright spots, and I think I did see him talking about Jalen Noel. But when we get to Jalen Noel and some of the receivers, I'll bring up Nick Haley again. Or whenever we get to their offense, I suppose. But here's a quick roundup if you didn't see it. Defense has obviously been doing great. Nightmare Fuel has been killing it. Dalton Schultz has been extremely consistent here. And this is all brought to you by the Houston Texans media team, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And then they have some interesting tidbits about the Texans, about their all-time lead over the Bills, and then Josh Allen's couple of trips here the last time we kind of talked about it. If you can recall, Texans had an OT win with Deshaun Watson in a wild card playoff on a Saturday noon game for us, and then the last time we saw them, Texans sneaking out a 23-20 victory over the Bills with a late last-second field goal. But yeah, Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter have been killing it. Obviously Derek Stingley, Kamari Lassiter have been locking it down. So that's just a quick little roundup. Nothing crazy. Notice the red theme going on. Texans will be wearing their all red. They are ready. Red alert. Candy paint uniforms for tomorrow night. That should be interesting. Last time I think we saw them wear these. They were up like 20 points over the Lions, and then they somehow lost that game. So, yeah. Oof. That's rough. Story of our lives there, with having leads and then losing it to good caliber teams that we should beat in prime time or standalone games. But it is what it is. Let's try to focus on Thursday night's matchup coming up, and I guess I can put myself back into center screen. Whoa, not that big. That's kind of wide and weird. How about that? Looks good. All right, cool. All right, so we got Buffalo versus Houston. Obviously mentioned it. Primetime game. Texans. I mean, I personally don't feel extremely comfortable when the Texans are in a standalone primetime game for everybody to watch them But I feel a little bit better with the fact that it's Davis Mills and he's had like experience with this, and it's typically for him like nobody was watching him during those years. So I feel like he kind of just treats every game like that anyway. He has like a weird kind of sense of calm, cool to him, which I can appreciate, I guess, when he's a seasoned vet. He has a few years and several, you know, tens of losses more, under his belt than CJ Stroud. So, I still, like I said, I have a weird sense of calm with Davis Mills going into this game. Although if he gets hurt and we have to throw Mertz out there, it's like, oh my gosh. CJ, good thing he's back at practice. So yeah. The bad thing about this is that Texans were held for under 20 points again last week versus a Tennessee Titans team that I believe is averaging about 28 points that they give up per contest to the opponent. So, like we said last week, 16 points. They were 4 of 13 on third down. That's definitely some sort of product having to do with, falling behind the sticks typically, but just, a mixture of that and sometimes some questionable play calling, in my opinion. But at the same time, Mills is a different type of, he doesn't really extend plays. So finding yourself, behind the sticks because of a sack or, the play breaks down in the pocket and he runs right into it for no gain, which happened a couple times. Didn't really go down in the books as a sack. That couldn't throw you off. And so, 4 sacks taken versus a Tennessee pass rush on 41 pass attempts. Texans have become a pass happy team recently. And I don't know if that's just because of their inability to kind of run the football. I saw them kind of do it late versus Jacksonville in a weird kind of way. And I guess it was because Jacksonville's offense couldn't stay on the field. Jacksonville's defense was extremely tired down the stretch, and Texans were just passing on them at will and then throwing in a delayed handoff or something. And the both running backs are ripping off huge gains. So, it had Jacksonville kind of on their heels in that point. But, like I said, they've become an extremely pass-happy team under Davis Mills. Obviously, the comeback, we had to call for that. You're down vast amount of points, 17-0 early in that game versus Jacksonville. And then in this next game, still fighting for it, trailing most of this game, shut out in the first half versus Tennessee. So still a lot of growing pains on that offense. And Mills hot and cold, but still, despite being hot and cold and taking 4 sacks to the dome there on 41 pass attempts, he's still, for the second week in a row, is somehow able to throw for over 270 yards in back-to-back games here. 274 yards this game, a touchdown, and a 90.9 rate, throwing up, again, pretty darn good numbers. Obviously, he was quarterback 1 a couple of weeks ago, if you guys do not recall, versus the Jacksonville Jaguars in that game. He had 3 total touchdowns, 2 through the air, 1 on the ground, nearly 300 yards passing. So it's just tremendous, but weird work. I don't know how he's getting it done. Close to 50 pass attempts in that game. So maybe that's just it, volume based. And then I guess an answer for that would be the resurgence of Nico Collins. Last week we saw it, 10 targets, 9 receptions, 92 yards, and a tug. That's 3 straight games with 75 plus yards for our boy Nico Frico. He's just doing his thing. So, with Davis Mills back at the helm over here for these guys, it's they're kind of cooking. So that maybe that's why there's a sense of calm for me. And then also, of course, because the defense has just been, absolute, beast, nightmare fuel for opposing offenses. And it's kind of weird. You look at this graph or this chart, and then you look at the Texans have played all of these teams, I think, except for the Chiefs are coming up and Green Bay. And so it's kind of odd how their offense sucks, but they played, some 3 of the top-notch defenses out there already under their belt. So, and then they didn't lose those games badly. I think the Seahawks one was probably the worst, and the score seems a little closer than what I felt it was, in my opinion. But I also fell asleep before the fourth quarter finished. So, just being honest. But back to this matchup, or back to the offense, back to Nico Collins. I think I had some comments or stuff to some other notes here on the side. Just bear with me for a second. No, that's on the defense. No, that's on the defense. And that's later. I'll get to the offensive line in a second. Man, I have a lot to talk about. Yeah, okay. So we'll get there when we get there with that stuff. But back to this, Nico Collins has been he's been a hoss for you guys. If you haven't, if you've had any fear about starting him in your fantasy lineups, just don't. He's pretty much an auto start. Davis Mills jamming the ball in there, even in double coverage, and just Nico Collins with strong hands, being able to find ways to get open, being able to find ways to beat press coverage or zone coverage. So auto start. But other players kind of coming on. Xavier Hutchinson's just kind of been hanging around. He had 5 targets last week, 3 catches, 42 yards. Second most yards that he's had for this year. I know it's not much, but he's coming on a bit. But the man, the myth, the legend. Now, Jaden Higgins, 7 targets, 4 catches, 55 yards, and he's been kind of doing that a little bit consistently. He appears to be taking over the there he is right there. Appears to be taking over the number 2 wide receiver position at this point, but that's among the wide receivers, and the Texans have a deep wide receiver group all of a sudden. Nick Caley even talked about it when asked about the involvement of Jalen Knoll and why he can't get him more involved. And he just says they tried different groupings, different packages, and when he's out there, that there's nothing that discourages him from putting him out there more or seeing him out there. So it's just kind of like a blah answer. Like he's not necessarily trying to put him out there more. It's just what the personnel may be or game plan or whatever that is. But Knowles one of those guys. He provides a spark. He's very electric. So you got to just find ways to get him in the game and manufacture touches, because it seems like he's showing up in key situations for the Houston Texans. The guy I did want to talk about, who's really the wide receiver 2, or in some cases the wide receiver 1, is old, reliable. This guy's had a resurgence, because where the hell was he last year? I was thinking it was time to cut him, or why they even sign him. But Dalton Schultz, 6 catches, 9 targets, 51 yards last week, again with Davis Mills in a kind of a slow offensive type of game. He's had 50 yards in 5 of his last 6 games, ladies and gentlemen. That's a viable tight end 1 for your fantasy football team, so you have the positions. He's almost an auto start. Now, I know that the Bills are like number 1 against tight ends, but if you listen to Bogart earlier today or yesterday, one of the shows, it's kind of fugazi. Don't necessarily really know who they play. And some teams just don't really use the tight end the way other teams do. A team that has a guy getting 9 targets or 7 to 9 targets consistently and breaking the 50-yard barrier is a viable fantasy option. Last week he was able to get in the end zone. Or 2 weeks ago, sorry, but not this week. But he finally got in the end zone, and that's just a good sign that he's kind of picked it up a little bit here in the second half of the season. So Cade Stover, I know he's come off of the IR, and he is going to probably be playing, but that I think it'll only help. It'll only help the offense. All right, let's transition over a little bit to the Bills D. Pause. So Bills D defense giving up 32 points. They gave 9 of 16 on third down, 2 of 4 in the red zone. Not very good last week versus not very good versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And this is their defense. So they've allowed 30 plus points in back-to-back games. And that was, I think they allowed 33 points to the other Florida team, which was Miami. So, I feel like there's room to be had here. The Texans could possibly, put up some points if the offense is clicking or moving or looking solid early on. They did show some promise. I've seen some well-designed plays, especially to Schultz in certain key situations on first down, just to play action, little dump over the middle, right past the defensive end or whatever, to pick up some positive yards and then get them in front of or ahead of schedule. That way the offense can actually move the ball. Now, the problem for the Houston Texans has been the red zone. So we'll get there when that happens. But Schultz is playing roughed up, though. Yeah, he is. He was questionable. I do believe he should be okay, or he's cleared to go. Let me see if I can pull up the injury report. Yeah, and there you see it. Jalen Petrie ruled out. Should have talked about that right off the gate. But yes, C.J. Stroud ruled out with a concussion. Yeah, and then everybody else should be there, at least for, from what happened today with the practice report. So let's see, where is Dalton? Can't even see him. Mills, Nico, Fairbairn. Oh, Fairbairn returns. That's good news, because we did have Wright miss a 41-yard field goal. Yeah, Schultz got in 2 full practices, so that's good. He is a little roughed up, obviously, but I think that he's gonna Yeah, he's tough enough to get through that. I think that he should be fine for the game tomorrow. Plenty of ice and rest for the old man Schultz at this point of his career. But yeah. Oh yes, back we were talking about the Bills defense last week versus Baker Mayfield. They did kind of hold him down a little bit, although the points were up. For Tampa Bay, obviously Josh Allen had that killer game, and we'll get to him in a second. But Baker Mayfield, 173 yards, a TD, an interception, an 83.5 rate. This is what they've been allowing to quarterbacks over the course of 2025, and that is the Bills, and that's sixth in the league. So might not be an easy task necessarily for Mills to go up there and put up great numbers essentially right out of the gate. But I think at the same time, he would be more inclined to throw for more than 173 yards. I don't know how all the points ended up coming pause for Tampa Bay, but I do know that Sean Tucker had like 3 touchdowns, and so if a couple of those were rushing, then obviously, or they were breakaways, and they took away a little bit from Baker. But yeah, not great numbers, obviously, but putting up 32 points, still nothing to scoff at. That's a lot of numbers, and I think if the Texans offense can put up anywhere between 23 to 26 points, they're definitely going to win this football game. So the over/under is listed at 43.5. But they, of course, like I said, they open as I think 6-point underdogs. Buffalo's rush defense, though, 39 attempts, and that's what I'm talking about here. You can run on these guys, and that's why quarterback numbers are down or a little bit deflated or skewed. So even though it's an 83.5 rate, it's because they don't necessarily have to pass the football a lot. And so if you're going to be, running the football close to 40 times for 200 yards, and you get 3 touchdowns out of it, then that'd be some pretty darn good news for guys like Woody Marks and Nick Chubb. And so, with the Texans' offensive line steadily improving, you can see this charted out. The pressure rate and on the left side, on the up and down, and so they're down from 23 and 24. That's what the years are, 2023, 24. So 25, they're down in the pressure rate, and that's in the passing game. And then the adjusted yards before contact rush rate, they're way over on the right side of the grid, the lower right quadrant. So that's a much improved Houston Texans offensive line, according to statistics in these 2 categories. And what that means for you non-football nerds or stat nerds, and you're all about the film, what that means is that the Texans have been running the football a lot better this year than they have over the last 2 seasons. And so, like I said, could mean good things for our guy, Woody Marks. And we saw it with Sean Tucker, man. Sean Tucker was like a huge waiver wire pickup, had a breakout game, 3 touchdowns, I believe two on the ground, 1 in the air, if I'm not mistaken. I didn't really watch that game. I just know that I saw some highlights. There's just way too much scoring to keep up with at that point, and still early in the week for me before I go through all of my game previews and I get set up for my fantasy football lineups on Sunday. So I'm still in that phase. Not to mention I had to put in some prep time for this show, and I've been working overtime at work. This has been getting crazy, and right during the crunch time, right before fantasy football playoffs are about to begin. But congrats to everybody who's locked in some playoff seating at this point. If you go to your sleeper leagues and you scroll down and check, you can see if you've already locked that in. And if you've got a buy at this point, then wow. But otherwise, these next couple of weeks are still crunch time. So here we go. Josh Allen last week, 100+ rate. He's had it 7 of 10 times this season, 317 yards, 3 TDs, 2 picks though, but still 104.4 rate last week versus a Tampa Bay defense that we know you can pass on and do things like that. But the thing is, he had the dual hat trick, the in the air and on the ground 3 TDs, 6 total touchdowns. I played against him in my home league. I survived because I played a great lineup and I had Ted McMillan kind of go off and some other dudes do their thing. But Drake May's my guy there. But and of course I had Nico. Nico did fantabulous for me, just doing his thing. We get points for first downs and big time plays and catches and stuff like that. So bonuses and whatnot. But yeah, Josh Allen being the man, doing his thing. Thing is, can he keep it up? Can he do it? And I talked about the rushing. 40 rush yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground. They were 3 for 4 in the red zone, 6 of 11 on third down, 44 points on offense. And he had some help from guys like James Cook, We had 3 targets, 3 receptions, 66 yards in the air, and a touchdown. Not much on the ground because you can't really run on Tampa Bay, but you can throw on them their pass funnel defense. 16 attempts for 48 yards, 3 yards a carry for Mr. James Cook, who still did his thing for you for fantasy football. Don't forget that he also has a counterpart in Ty Johnson, who had 2 targets, 2 receptions, 61 yards, and a touchdown. So that happens. They have a pair of running backs. And then they have a mix of a bunch of hodgepodge guys. Did I already get to James Cook? That's there. And, it's the same one. Well, see, that's what happens when you're in a rush, folks. And they have a hodgepodge mix at receiver. They got Shavers out there. He had 4 catches on 5 targets, 90 yards, and a touchdown, a career high in yards for the second-year guy, Tyrell Shavers, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think he's a rookie. I already did that one like 5 times. Might as well just delete it. Yeah. Oh, and Gabe Davis. Want to talk about Gabe Davis? 3 receptions, 4 targets, 40 yards. 4 targets. We want to pretend that he's irrelevant, but somebody to kind of keep an eye on. Shakir had a dud of a game. I think that he'll bounce back. And one of these other guys will be irrelevant, but it might be better for the Bills if they just kind of keep these relevant guys kind of on the field doing things and try to sneak one by. Somebody not playing proper technique on the Houston Texans defense. But good luck with that, because you got guys like Derek Stingley out there. Derek Stingley Jr. is the only player in the NFL to have at least 10 interceptions and 40 passes defended over the past 3 seasons. The guy is doing work, and he's showing that he's well worth the extension and the money. I got the money. Where's Bogey when you need him? He knows what I'm talking about. But the 3-and-out rates here, and these are both teams on it, team 3-and-out rates, and it'll show you the opponent 3-and-out rate. The Texans, it's a tale of 2 different things here. So let's kind of break this down so you can understand this chart. Texans force a lot of 3-and-outs. The Bills on offense commit a lot of 3-and-outs. So that's basically what that's happening there. So that dynamic is going to be interesting. If the Texans can keep the defense fresh, stay off the field, give the offense a lot of opportunity, guess what? That's a recipe for success, and that's their best chance to try to win the football game. And I think that's their best chance to try to win every football game that they play, given the current state of their offense and Nick Caley and all the stuff that's going on there with that. And I know it's his first year and, all that stuff. But at this point, it seems like you were better off just staying with Bobby Slowick, right? And that's not a good feeling. The Texans have obviously regressed. We're hoping that at this point, or at this stage of the season, you'd have at least 7 wins under your belt. But, not being able to punch it through or get things going, score in the red zone, walk away with points when you're in the red zone, going for it on 4th down, 4th and goal, skeptical play calling there, running a quarterback draw from 4th and 2, throwing fade routes 3 times in a row to the same player. Like, just, very questionable things. I hope that every time that stuff like that happens, that he's just learning from it and he's getting better and he's chalking it up and saying, okay, that didn't work. We're not doing that shit anymore. Right. But back to the strong point, Will Anderson Jr. and the Houston Texans defense. Will Anderson Jr., 8 sacks, 1 sack in 5 straight games. Danielle Hunter has 5 sacks in his last 2 games, so he's really come on as well. It's going to be hard to really stop that pass rush for the Houston Texans. The pass D in the back end, 72.7 rate versus Cam Ward, and 57.6 completion percentage. I'm sorry, over the season versus Cam Ward last week. You see the numbers there: 194 yards, a TD, and 5.2 yards per attempt. And I think they kind of let him off the hook easy, as people were saying it was going to be kind of a trap game. But still, I think the defense just did just enough to bail the offense out once again, because the offense was struggling. And then, of course, the Texans' rush defense, they do struggle versus quarterbacks. As you can see there, quarterbacks averaging 7 yards per carry. That's the worst in the league. But versus running backs, 3.6 yards per carry. That is good enough for 3rd in the league. I don't think anybody surpassed 100 yards on the Houston Texans this season. Maybe one. I'm not even sure. I'd have to go back and double check that. But I don't think it's happened. All right. Cool. Breezing through this, man. I think I did a good job so far. Let's round up some closing arguments. See what's going on here. So just for fantasy purposes, you're going to start Josh Allen, but I would still temper your expectations just a little bit. I don't think you're going to see a 6-touchdown performance like you did this last week. Texans have not allowed a QB to score 20 or more fantasy points this entire season. Will he break that streak? I don't. This is standard fantasy points. I don't know. But I hope not, and I really don't anticipate it. If he does, I think it'll still hover somewhere around there. Buffalo Bills are 0-3 this year when they fail to score over 20 points, but they're also 7-0 when they do score over 20 points. The Houston Texans rank number 1 when their opponents averaging 16.3 points per game. So there you have it. There have been a few teams, though, that have scored more than 20 points on the Houston Texans, and when that does happen, they have not won those games. So it's an interesting dynamic. I know it'd be a lot more fun if C.J. Stroud was playing, I believe, but believe me, Davis Mills can still get some excitement in there for us, and I think we're in line hopefully for an entertaining game. If this is like one of those blowout things where I'm just pissed, I'm not going to say a TV is going to be broken, but something will probably fly across the room. Davis Mills did say this on Jaden Higgins, though, that he's a stud. He's been showing up a lot in the big-time moments, especially when they needed a big play. Very similar to Nico Collins. Obviously, guys are both 6'4", 215 pounds or so. So it's just, it's just interesting. But yeah, back to the Houston Texans offense. Another tidbit: their interior offensive line this year via Next Gen Stats, 5.9 pressure rate allowed, which is the 8th lowest. Minus 1 yard before contact per design carry on rushes between the tackles is the 9th most. So that's a noticeable improvement, but still some work to be done. And the Texans have won their last 5 home games against the Bills, which is the longest streak of home wins against any opponent in franchise history, including postseason. And there you have it. Those are all my fun little facts for you in that segment, which I like to call, I bet you didn't know that shit. We'll work on the name. Lee says Mark should have a day against that Bills crappy run defense. I believe so, and hopefully they can scheme that stuff up. Maybe if you're desperate, you could even flex Chubb this week, but I wouldn't advise it. He got 3 carries last week, but he was ripping them off. But we saw heavy, low Chubb usage, heavy Woody. Pause. How about that? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that culminates the show. That's him for that one. We did a lot of stuff today. I was on rapid mode. I only had 1 coffee, but I've been up super early, and I got to get up super early for my final men's group meeting tomorrow morning, meeting with the bros at 6 a.m. So got to get up early and do that. I still got some studying to do for that as well, but make sure to lock some of your fantasy guys in. Like I said, Woody Marks, he's playable. I would say somewhere like an low-end RB2 type deal. Nico, wide receiver 1. Desperation flexes, Higgins, Hutchinson. I know it's a tough matchup for Dalton Schultz, but you can still lock him in as a low-end tight end 1. And then on the other side of the ball, you fire up no matter what. Maybe James Cook does something in the receiving game, so you fire him up, even though it's a stingy Texans run defense. If you're going to fire up Josh Allen, regardless of the Texans being really good against fantasy quarterbacks, like I said, maybe just temper expectations. But I mean, it's Josh Allen. It's going to probably still give you a QB 1 week. Wide receivers, I always say flex Shakir. I just believe that he's like the most consistent guy out there. Shavers flashed. Maybe he might be something, so he's a good speculation. Wait and see. I have to start in 1 league somewhere. I just had to, because I needed to pick somebody up off the waiver wire with bye weeks and injuries. Who else? I think that's it. Touched on it all. I wouldn't go with like Dawson Knox or anything like that. I think that's just how the Bills are going to roll there. And then on the defensive sides, you know who your studs are. You play them. I think you play both of them. You play your Bills defensive guys. You play your Texas defensive guys. I don't think anybody else is particularly in play. EJ Speed might get some more work because Jalen Petrie's out again. They've been kind of using him in coverage as a coverage linebacker, taking that position a little bit, I think, from what I saw. But yeah, that's the only other news that's noteworthy. Christian Harris like just totally disappeared from the defense. Don't even know what the fuck happened to him. Kate Stover got activated from the IR. We signed some Cowboys dude who's like irrelevant right now. Nick Caley just like talks in circles, and D'Amico's like always positive about everything. So we apparently don't know what's going on in the locker room, and we're not them, and we're outside noise. So if they can keep buying into that shit, and they can rattle off another win here, buy some time for CJ Stroud, who was taking some extra time to recover from that concussion. He should be fully prepared and ready to rock and roll versus the Colts, focused on them. They can steal that game, then you're cooking, man. At that point, you've already taken, the bull by the horns, the toro by the horns, and controlling your own destiny by the time you face Kansas City in a hopefully a revenge game from them knocking you out of the playoffs last year in a super cold ass game out there where Big Boy performed at halftime. All right. Well, that does it for me, folks. I'm just kind of chit-chattering on. Make sure you check out neonpeacockmerch.com. Sale does end tomorrow. $15 tees. Everything is on sale. Everything else is on sale. Make sure you take advantage of that. That means you can get hoodies. I got some Ninja Turtle designs that I threw up there recently. They're pretty dope. But, of course, I have all the football isms and everything else you can get there as well. Not only that, you can get thermoses. You can get caps. You can get all types of shit. So just go ahead and take a look there. Make sure that you're taking advantage of those sales. Like I said, it ends tomorrow. So head on over there, type your email in, and make sure you're signed up for that mailing list. That way you know when the next one comes by in case you don't make that purchase. And I'm just hoping for a good game. Very entertaining game tomorrow. Make sure you're rocking out your candy paint red. Brandon, if you go out there and bro, I'll be on the lookout for you, but make sure that you yell your lungs out and you leave there with no voice. Hopefully that way. That way they know, like I said, that way they know that, what Houston's all about when you come into play in H-Town. I know Josh Allen is kind of familiar, and he's probably looking for a little bit of revenge. He said he got really beat up the last time, so I'm expecting him to take off and try to use his legs and do a lot of things on his own, and hopefully we can just get him off schedule and catch him making some mistakes and set ourselves up for success in that regard. But as far as that goes, I have to make sure these guys, they've come on lately. They just got to keep it going. So hopefully this tandem is meeting at the quarterback and we can stop him. That's my main focus. If we can stop Josh Allen and keep him from using his legs against us and extending these plays, and we can get off the field, then I think the Texans have a decent chance. Over under, like I said, I think it was 43.5. They have the Bills by 6. I was going to come into this and say that the Texans were going to lose, probably, and I would just take them to cover the points. I'm going to switch my answer and say 23-20 Texans, because why not? Keep the magic alive. Let's go. All right. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, showing up, showing out here with the H-Town Huddle. We do this typically every Wednesday night. I like to do it the format on Saturdays as well, because it gives us a little bit more information when the games are on Sundays. But since we have a Thursday night matchup today or tomorrow, just decided to do it a little bit early. So make sure you guys are checking that out. We will have this game for you guys live streaming tomorrow, Bills versus Texans on the GWN Network, Thursday night live watch party for Week 12, kicking off Week 12 strong with all your fantasy business. Make sure you're hanging out with us, doing the play-by-play, kicking it live, chit-chatting, talking about life, and just having a good time, man. Really appreciate all the guys and the playmakers on the Gen Wealth Net. And so we'll be here tomorrow night doing it once more. So that being said, y'all know the drill. We'll catch you. Make sure you like and subscribe, spread the word. And you can't spell peace, or you can't spell peacock without peace.
It's special. We saw that practice. We pressed this weekend. Them boys are tired. Let's keep it up this week, man. Texas!
Crazy. Henny. Little bitch.